Welcome, good day, and other assorted greetings. Fabled Tyromancer here, and I'm here to tell you the truth. You see, mainstream gaming media and big gaming companies are in bed and covering up something big. So I want to tell you the truth about secret other interpretations of games that are going underreported. This is the first entry in our series and my debut on YouTube, not counting the AMVs I made as a teenager, and one that will cast the mold for what I intend to lay out in this series in an easy-to-digest way as we go through the full course of my argument and why you may have clicked my thumbnail over another. Undertale is a cooking game. Don't believe me? I ask of both you and Undertale, let me cook. And you may ask, my dear rhetorical strawman, Tyro is fine. But the question remains, it's 2025. Surely there are enough videos exploring Undertale on a musical, philosophical, and emotional level. Shouldn't we let it rest? But I refuse until the truth is out there. On the off chance you've been living under a rock in gaming, with your tinfoil tucking in your sweet, sweet dome, go watch another video or hit up Wikipedia. I'm not summarizing Undertale beyond the basics, and will spoil the heck out of it in this video. So here's your chance to get on the off-ramp. Undertale, Toby Fox, Indie Undertale, 2015, RPG, bullet hell, music, charm. I'm not a journalist, and it's so popular that even this segment is taking too much script time for a very well-known game, at least among indies. But notice that I didn't say cooking. You see, we've all been ignoring it. After all, in order to be a cooking game, you have to cook food at a minimum. And Undertale features many things, but not really cooking food. Except it does. And we do cook in Undertale. When I originally sat down to write this script, I expected an uphill battle to defend this thesis. But as I went further down the rabbit hole, sat down for a fresh playthrough with fresh eyes, I was genuinely surprised just how much cooking, among other things, Undertale has in the pot. That I let myself forget in favor of the dominant narrative of the game. You see, food themes dominate Undertale's narrative as a literal and figurative attempt at breaking bread with enemies, building bonds with new friends, and diffusing tension. Food items are among the most meaningful items in the game, indispensable for all but the most skilled of no-hit runs, and often featuring unique effects in serious situations. So let's dive into it. To make it simple, I have created an almighty rubric to apply to any and every game I play to tell me whether or not it truly is a cooking game. And then an objective alignment chart to rate it on a scale of purity to radicalization. So even I don't know where this is going to go until I'm in the editing kitchen and it stews for 6 to 8 hours on low. It's not going to be the first time, and it won't be the last. So I'll grade Undertale on a rubric from A to F on each section to come to a final grade. Now, as an elective course in game analysis, we'll decide this with a simple pass or fail, but we'll also pull that together into a final grade which we can use to compare to other cooking games. So let's get into what makes a cooking game a cooking game. First and foremost, does it feature food? From butterscotch cinnamon pie, to burgers, to pieces of snowmen, to instant noodles, Undertale has a decent variety of foods that have a variety of effects. Undertale earns a tidy A in this department. But does Undertale give the impression of, or look like a cooking game? This is a more challenging hill to climb, but I argue that it does. Sure, certainly Undertale doesn't scream cooking game from the top shelf of the fridge, you know, next to that milk that you smell before you take a drink from. I mean, I still don't know to this day what an Undertale even is. But titles aren't everything, much like every little dive you drive past. So let me be the one to invite you to view Undertale as a cooking game. To start, we need to look at what's under the hood and the narrative parallels. In fact, like all stories, we'll find that Undertale follows the monomyth, the hero's journey, for cooking, life, and growth. The monomyth? Really? Yes, dear straw man. Do cooking games usually follow the monomyth? Sometimes. More on that in another video, possibly, if it's ever relevant again. What are you, the philosophy police? We go through this so many times in the game, it's almost hard for me to see it as anything else now, just like any other cozy cooking game. Not only for Frisk, but Papyrus, Undyne, the mouse on its journey for cheese, Undertale at its core is a story about food. So to break it down further, the hero's journey is a cycle of growth and storytelling that starts with a call to adventure, entering a magical world unfamiliar to the mundane one our hero comes from, and coming out changed. Each chapter features themes of cooking and growth. You can see where I'm going with this. The ruins have the caretaker and childhood motifs. No one starts life cooking for themselves. Vegetoid and the Spider Bake Sale have readily available foods. Toriel bakes the butterscotch cinnamon pie and talks further of cooking snail pie for Frisk later. As a side note, we later see snails kept for racing, but the implication here is pretty straightforward. Snail husbandry is a part of life in the underground. Don't think about that too hard. But as Frisk has to continue on their journey, so too do they need to learn to be independent and cross the threshold to enter Snowdin. Through Papyrus and Sans, we explore early attempts at food independence in the modern world. Spaghetti is a staple of easy cooking, and is the only thing that Papyrus can make. And not well. Sans is a frequent patron of grillbees. Despite their freedom, they haven't really learned to cook proficiently. Through Waterfall, we meet Undyne, and she not only makes us tea, but offers to teach us to cook and give us our first lesson. One that takes, as I'll get to in a minute. Metaton and Alphys, too, have their roles modeling cooking beyond the normal level, and as Frisk survives tests, makes allies, and befriends enemies, they acquire the holy relics of cooking, an apron and a pan. I think you can follow where this train of logic goes. I'm not here to force Undertale into the monomyth fully. This isn't a serious literary analysis. I choose to plead the philosophical fifth. But know that these themes continue on throughout the neutral ending, as food is even a major feature of the final boss fight. I would call the presentation of Undertale as a cooking game to be a B. There are consistent themes of food and its importance throughout the plot, though admittedly you may find it is a bit in the eye of the beholder. So what's really important in determining if it is a cooking game or not is how quickly we can sit down and cook something, get that satisfaction and dopamine going, and that all-important time to cook stat. So how long does it take for us to cook something in Undertale? Well, despite Undyne being a hazard in the kitchen, Frisk did learn how to boil water to make instant noodles. It isn't glamorous, and it takes a few hours of game time to get there. That's unfortunately a D, not great, but there is, in fact, cooking done without an NPC's hand-holding or within a cutscene. Next, we'll measure infusion, how important gathering ingredients and cooking feels to the core gameplay loop. I'd say it's pretty darn important. Did you not hear my parallel narratives of the monomyth and cooking? That's an A. Easy. Undertale is a story-driven game. The story is the gameplay loop. Just because something can seem like a cooking game doesn't make it one, nor does it make it a good one. So let's look at the cooking mechanics themselves. First is our farm to table. How do we gather ingredients? Well, in Undertale, your ingredients are generally just given to you. Our first failed grade, an F, but let's be honest, most professional chefs aren't gathering their own ingredients either. Next is our deglaze, our cooking mechanics. Despite there only being a few cooking segments, most of them do take the form of proper mini-games. Sure, most of the edible cooking happens in cutscenes, or the rewards are given to you by an NPC, but we burned Undyne's house down. That doesn't happen without some kind of effort. I think that's a solid B. Now our tools of the trade. How many cooking implements are there? Is this a magic oven scenario, where you're not even picking up a knife, or are a variety of tools available for your culinary tasks? Despite there being references to magical cooking means, which is pretty fun lore, we do get a variety of tools for cooking. A solid B, I would say. Now let's evaluate our knife skills. How hard is the cooking? A C. Pretty easy. You just need to be at the right places and it just kinda happens, at least for those that end in success. Cooking with a killer robot does feature a time-sensitive minigame to get something off the top shelf, but I can't give Undertale a lot of credit for that. After all, it is a cooking show. The results were already made before they started. Next is our Maillard reaction. How beneficial is cooking? I'll give this a B. Since you don't cook a lot of food yourself, it does lose points in the mechanical loop, but gameplay-wise, from the pacifist and neutral routes to the genocide route, every healing item matters, and many items have alternative effects. Using a spider donut instantly ends the Muffet fight with no fighting needed. Now, for appreciating the bigger picture, our presentation. How badly do you want a bite of what's on screen? This is a solid B. There's a hot dog tower. Do I really need to say more? Okay, fine. There's glam burgers. That name is amazing. That said, pixels and seductive names can only stoke the appetite so much. I mean, I love burgers. I can even enjoy one doused in ketchup, but it's only like 60 pixels. That brings us to the end of our mechanical assessment, and we need to acknowledge another important aspect of cooking. Would the Underground's kitchens pass a health inspection? Metaton's piranhas, firewalls, and chainsaw raise some good questions about safety and sanitization. That's going to be a C on our health inspection. Only fire lives here now. Next, would folks bring their spouse and children to eat here? Is the food family friendly? I would say that Frisk is a child. It's de facto family friendly, so that's an A. Mostly. And as we wind down with our digestif and the game's overall takeaway, I wanted to talk about my real experience. I first played Undertale a decade ago, and even 10 years later this game is a treat. It makes me laugh. It makes me cry. It's no wonder Undertale has left a mark on the gaming world, and I hope it continues to reach indie game fans and developers for years to come, and that I can continue to fall in love with it every time I play it. It's entirely subjective, but that is another point of cooking. It's all in the eye or taste of the beholder. I have a lot of fond memories of food I ate as a child and grew up on. The kind that was made of canned and instant everything, coming together in a processed but delicious whole, but it's not winning any awards beyond the awards of my heart. That said, that is another A for Undertale, which makes our final score 74%. That's a pass, and grade-wise, that's a C, and C's get culinary degrees, probably. And as for the all-important alignment, Undertale is generally food pure with a little abstraction, but cooking neutral. Undertale is the game that keeps on giving, and I greatly look forward to talking about Deltarune when we have all the chapters, and the cooking content is beefed up. Or isn't. Watch me twist myself backwards to justify it then. I just might. I'm also hoping to tackle Toby Fox's other contributions to the cooking genre later in the series, as my ever-expanding backlog gets backloggier. After all, he did contribute as a composer for notable cooking games Pokemon Sword, Shield, Scarlet, and Violet, but that's for another video. Undertale is a cooking game, and this was your proof. Cite me in your bibliographies, and I'll see you next time as we continue to challenge the lines that divide genres from my personal potato box. If you have a controversial genre-based gaming opinion, a suggestion for other totally cooking games for me to visit, or just want to say hi, please do so in the comments. Bye-bye!